English. And I just want, to encourage you even more after the talks and the breaks today at the party in the evening. Please come to me, even if you don't speak English. We're going to figure it out. I have time. I really would like to talk to you and exchange ideas and concepts. And I want to jump right into my journey. So, I came all the way from Frankfurt, Germany. It was like a 30 hours crazy journey. And it all started like this, the train going to the airport. And guess what? Internet, zero, pretty much. And then I arrive at the at the airport, for example, in Frankfurt, also in Sao Paulo. You open up your computer and you think like, fuck yeah, they are like open Wi-Fi's, right? So I can just connect to them and I have internet, it's all good. Until you actually connect to them and they tell you, no, you actually need an account or pay us or whatever, It's a fucking lie. Sorry for swearing. It's a lie. No, I'm really sorry. I try not to. It's a lie, right? You think you can connect to the internet. Your computer actually thinks, oh yeah, I'm connected to the Wi-Fi. I have internet access, but it's a lie. It's not true. And then the mother of all offline experiences, the plane, right? And, if we as app developers think about our users using our applications while being offline, we think about these pictures here. So you think, okay, he's in a plane, he's in a train whatsoever, he has no internet connection at all. But it's rather the exception of the rule. And if you say it's not worth it because adding all this complexity to my applications to make them work offline, especially web applications, it's not worth only because of these exceptional use cases. And I agree. The point is, it's not all. For example, I'm German, now I'm in Brazil. My internet is kind of constrained to the lobby of this hotel. If I go outside, I have the most amazing phone, you have a great mobile reception, but still I can't benefit from it, right? Because I cannot afford the roaming costs. Also, I live in Germany and Switzerland because of my wife and my work. It's not worth for me to have like 2 contracts in both countries, so I have prepaid internet and I run out of the included internet all the time. And either I'm offline or the internet connection becomes really slow. And that's kind of like offline as well. And last but not least, don't make the mistake to make any assumptions of what's happening beyond the device your app is running on. Just because my computer says, okay, I'm connected to the Wi-Fi, doesn't mean that it's connected to the internet. Because the internet is pretty complex, right? Every request-response cycle can fail, and especially these web applications, we have a lot of them. So the requests can fail, the responses can fail, they can be slow, they can be fast. You don't know, and you cannot predict. Yeah, I'm swearing again, but I promise this is the last time. The bottom line here is that our offline experiences suck big time. And it's our responsibility as developers to do something about it. But the good news is you can actually build offline first application, meaning that apps that also run offline. And not only can you build them today, it's also not really hard. It's much simpler than you might expect. All we need to do is to change our mindset. We need a mind shift, and that's what I'm here for today. So hi, I'm Gregor. That's me in East Africa. It was another fantastic, great offline experiences that we can talk about later. I consider myself a both-and developer. So I'm not an expert in the front end, I'm not an expert in the back end, but I think I have a good understanding of how the different perspectives, the different priorities interfere with each other, and if you make it right, how they can empower each other. And also, I'm very into UX design lately, because from the perspective of the users of our app, how they experience the application is the only thing that matters. So I really like to get more into it, and everything else, make it backwards from there. I created an app called Minutes.io 3 years ago, and it was just a playground. It was just, Backbone.js came out, local storage came out, app cache manifest, like the HTML5 APIs just came out. I wanted to play with them. But by chance, it actually became quite a successful application in terms of usage across the world. I mean, it's a free application, you can just go use it. But the point here is, this app I would consider offline first today. And I built it 3 years ago, and it's in production 3 years. It has 100,000 more users every day. Not every day, but a lot of users every day. And if I could make this 3 years ago, you can certainly make it today. I'm also one of the initiators at Hoodie. I put some stickers on the tables. I'm sorry, I'm kind of limited because we are open source. We have no money. These stickers are expensive, but I hope all of you get one. If not, please talk to me. And it's an open source architecture and library to let you build offline capable applications and also stop worrying about the backend, but that's another talk. If you have any questions about offline first, about the talk, about Hoodie, please talk to me on Twitter. I'm GR2M. Team Hoodie is Hoodie HQ. And if you want to discuss Twitter, please discuss offline first on Twitter. Please use the hashtag offline first so we can pick it up and respond to it. Hoodie, that's not just me. We are 7 that I would consider core contributors. We are like the core team today. And we as Team Hoodie, we subscribe to a certain view, which is, unlike the always wired machines of the past, computers are now mobile and very, very personal. And people move seamlessly in between the states of online and offline. And our apps should do the same. And it seems like common sense, and I think it is common sense. But, one second. Sorry. I just don't know how to disable the mirroring because I don't see my notes. Never mind, I would just go like this. It's okay, I will figure it out. I'm sorry for the interruption. We have a problem. We as the app developers, we live in a bubble. And the bubble being, we usually work at very comfortable places. We have big screens, we have fully fledged keyboards, we have a great big monitor or even 2, and above all we have a fast, reliable internet connection that is plugged right into the back of our computers or our routers. And this is not the true out there. And we have been there before. This is Luke Wroblewski with his book Mobile First, released 5 years ago. And the problems that we experience with offline first, or under the subject offline first, are very similar to mobile first. And Luke Wroblewski kind of said that more often than not, the mobile experience for web application is built after desktop version. And this is very, very wrong, and he mentioned 3 points why that is. The first point is mobile is exploding. This was 2009. Today, it's not exploding anymore. It's already way beyond the desktop usage. And mobile is very important for offline first because this is where the offline experience comes from. Not only from our tablets, our phones, also we have laptops today which are also mobile more than the old desktop computers. Mobile forces you to focus. By focusing on the most constrained environment, for mobile first that means a very small screen, touch input, you are enforced to think a lot about how to make the app still usable. So it becomes very simple to use, and then all environments benefit from that design process a lot. And similar things apply to offline first as well, and I will get to them later on. Mobile extends your capabilities. That's also very important because if you start with mobile, you will also figure out, hey, I have a GPS, I have NFC, I have all these kind of things that I can also use to extend my capabilities that I could not use if I would have started with the desktop experience and then just consider the smaller screens as some kind of error. And these points kind of encouraged us as the team Hoodie to start this new discussion around offline first. And this was a blog post that we published in November last year. And it seems that we have hit a nerve there, because a lot of members of the community, also a lot of people that you really might know, like Christian, they picked up the subject and sparked it further. Christian has by today an own blog post on this matter, a very technical one. But above that, I think what is very important, that even more than mobile first, we have to start with the offline experience first, because as an app, you can detect the environment you're in. You can say, okay, I have a small screen, I have a touch input. With offline, this is not possible. You cannot make assumptions on what environment you're in. Just because you're on a phone doesn't mean your connection is slow, and the other way around for your computer, for example. And it's very, very hard, as I said, to consider offline as a feature. You know, this is what we have called in the past graceful degradation, right? We kind of started with the best experience back in the days, like all the JavaScript effects, and then for the old Netscape, Explorer, whatever, we made something that still worked so that we don't kind of let them out. But that doesn't work for offline first, and we have been there before. We made our learnings, so let's not repeat that. So, for example, what happens if you treat it as an error is, I want to show it with Google Docs. When you use Google Docs to create a document, you can, just edit it and write it. But the moment you're losing your internet connection, all actionable icons on top, they will just disappear. And you cannot even edit your document anymore. Like only a few weeks back, you couldn't even copy the content that is in the document already. And then as a user, you're kind of freaking out, so what you do is reloading the page, and then oops, everything is gone. So that's pretty bad. I don't want to blame them though, because this project has been created way back before, offline first was considered a problem, and also before the technology was available to do it. And another one is GitHub, or like any other blog, whatever, where you can comment on objects. Something that I encountered a few times in the past is I seem to be online, I try to comment, and then nothing happens. I don't know how good your internet connection is in Brazil, because I haven't spent much time here. But, this I even see, in trains between Germany and Zurich, where I would think by now, in 2014, this shouldn't be a problem. But there are connection issues because the internet is complex. So nothing happens, you just keep clicking on the disabled button, and then at some point there might be an error. It just tells me something went wrong, I don't even know what it was. So I try again, same error, and because I don't have a better idea, I try again, and then all of a sudden I see 3 comments. And the reason this happens is because my request to the server actually went through, but the responses did not. And things like that will just happen. And it's very, very hard to test for these cases. So it's much smarter, also because of this, just to start with offline and consider online as a feature. Oh, this is my favorite. Do you know that you can cache the visible area of Google Maps on your phone for offline usage? Do you know that is possible? Who knows how that works? Do you know? You have to type OK Maps, obviously, right? I want this map to be available offline, so what am I doing? I click on search, and then I type OK space maps. And Google suggests me, Oklahoma or maps businesses near Oklahoma or somewhere in Thailand. But no, Google, I know what I'm doing. I search for OK Maps, and no, map preloading is not available in this area. What a bummer, right? But what actually would have happened in other cities where it's supported, it would have cached all the information and I could use it offline. This is a horrible experience, and I think we can do better than that. So how to build offline first? There are 5 steps to actually build an application offline first, and I will go through them one by one. The first is you have to separate the data from your application code. And if you do JavaScript applications today, like if you use Backbone, Ember, Angular, and similar, you're there already. Next one is you have to deliver the code and make it cacheable. And Tim just talked about the app cache manifest, which is super simple, but it's a douchebag. And that's not swearing, it's a quote. There's a great article on it on the list apart, but Jake Archibald. Just a quick example, this is how it looks like. So Tim mentioned, you usually put in like comments that have to change if an asset changed. If you don't do it and you deploy a new version of your app, no one will see it. And this is just like one problem of many. But still, you can use it today. Just make sure to read the article by Jake and watch his talks. They are amazing and super funny. And as I said, I use this since years, and it's working pretty well for me. Save data offline. You can use local storage and IndexedDB today. Local storage is super easy, but it has some downsides because its API is synchronous. If you have a lot of data in local storage, it kind of blocks your UI for a second because it's loading all the stuff from the hard drive. It's not a nice experience, but it's simple to use. And then there's IndexedDB, which is crazy complex. But it doesn't have the constraints of local storage. So what happens, of course, in the open source community is that a lot of wrappers come out around IndexedDB to benefit from its like less constraints, but still make it simple. Like one is local forage by Mozilla, which kind of gives you the local storage API, but async and on top of IndexedDB, and it gracefully degrades to web SQL or local storage or memory, whatever is available. Detecting connectivity. Like if you read the available API, there is Navigator online. And it not only is the worst capitalization in the entire world of JavaScript, it's a freaking lie. Like it's a lie. Like if it's true, what does it tell you, right? It might tell you that, okay, it seems you are connected to the Wi-Fi, but it doesn't tell you anything beyond that. The only thing it tells you is if it's false, you can kind of think that, yeah, you will be offline probably, but even that is not true. And then there is data sync. And this is the really hard part. Like, don't think that the complexity is spread equally across the 5 points that I mentioned. It's more like 90% of complexity is syncing data, and the rest is just easy in comparison, really. So don't reinvent sync. Like, don't make your own protocols, build up on existing solutions, like JSGit, for example. Definitely a project to watch. It's awesome. We are big fans, but there are also others. We are big fans of CouchDB, that also Tim mentioned in his talk. CouchDB is a database, but it's a database that syncs. It has master-to-master replications built in right into the core of the database. So it's perfect for synchronization. And CouchDB today is also considered as an API, which can be reproduced for our environment. So there's CouchDB for Android, there's CouchDB for iOS, and also for the browser. And the browser project is called PouchDB. And PouchDB is really, really awesome. Like if you are into CouchDB, you can use PouchDB today. It's built up on top of IndexedDB, also degrades to web SQL, and it has all the sync built in. There is another project called Remote Storage, which would, I think, need another talk because it's really, really cool. It physically separates the user data from the app. Just check it out. It's mind-blowing a little bit. And there is JSGit that I don't need to talk about anymore. So offline first is hard. That I can tell you. But there was a very smart guy, German guy, who said, everything is hard before it is easy. And that's our mission at Hoodie. We really, really try to make things simple. For example, this is code that is available in the browser today. Like this is kind of the API that you are using. You don't send AJAX requests. You have JavaScript functions that are all async by returning promises. So for example, you can store a new to-do, you pass JSON, and it's stored in your store. You have an account API where you can sign up, you can sign in, sign out, you can change username, change the password, you can reset the password, all this generic stuff that is just boring, but we keep reproducing for every app. We try to kind of encapsulate that in a generic solution with Hoodie. We have plugins like email, for example, extends the API to actually send multi-part emails with attachments right from the browser. And you might think like, okay, but where's the offline here? Like there is no sign of like how does this solve my problem? And I think that's the wrong question to ask because this problem is not specific to your application. It's a generic problem that most of our applications have today. And I want to show you what I mean by that. If you go on hood.ie and you scroll down a bit, this is our website. You know, you see the features that we have built, the features that we are working on. You see some code examples, and you also see a getting started guide that explains how can you work with Hoodie today on Linux, Mac, and Windows. I'm sorry this is very small, but I will just read it out for you. So if you installed it, you have a command line tool. At some point we want to have Hoodie hosting or have others do the Hoodie hosting for us, but right now you have to go through this. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying Hoodie new and the name of the application, and it's copying like an example application to my computer, and when I go into this folder and say Hoodie start, it starts a server, the Hoodie server, and it opens the browser and it shows the application that I just downloaded. And it looks like this. It's a very, very simple to-do application, and it also shows the code on the right side, how it actually works. But I will jump right into the code and show you how it actually works. So just the same example, if I do Hoodie store add to-do and pass JSON, it just gets stored. And as you see, it returns a promise. So I can add callbacks to success or error with the promise API, right? So if the storing of the to-do worked out, I can show a success message. Unless I have a syntax error, then I have to fix it. Done. Now the interesting part is, obviously, if I open the same application in a different browser, I won't see the same data, obviously, because all the data right now with Hoodie is stored only in the browser, so it only exists in the browser in the back. But what I can do now is that I simply switch back to the first application, and I can create a new account from the console. So I do Hoodie account, sign up. I sign up as test with password test. And I now create an account. Then I can go to the other browser or device or whatever. I can now sign in with the same credentials. And it will sync the data for me. And I don't have to think about it. That's what Hoodie does for you. It also comes with like some extras. For example, like events that you can listen to whenever something changed in the store. You can react on it. This change can come from your application. This change can also come from remote. So you can make like the live environment with it. Or you have disconnected accounts, which is important because, as I said, Navigator Online doesn't work. So we use all kinds of techniques to find out if you're actually connected or not, and make the best kind of presumption that we can to say if you're online or not. So how does it work? The Hoodie architecture. I go through this a little bit faster because I'm running out of time. This is one part of it. You have your app on the device, you have Hoodie.js on the device, and local storage is where your data lives. And if this is all you need, if you don't need a backend, if you don't need your users to access the data from all their devices, you're good. You can just use it, you don't need the backend. But if you do, this is how it works. Not like traditional applications, there is no application server. Instead, it syncs the data directly to a database. It goes from kind of local database to remote database directly. The code, the logic for backend are actually workers that are also listening to changes in the database. So they're picking up different type of objects that are special, that describe a task, like create a user account, send an email, receive payment, and there are no limitations to that. There's nothing we couldn't do with it this way. So as an example, let's say I create an email. What happens is Hoodie will store a copy in your device. And if you're not connected to the internet, there's no problem. It will just wait until you have internet. And then the email JSON will be synced to the database. It will be picked up by the worker. The worker says, okay, it worked out. So it creates a new version of the JSON. And that new version triggers the sync again, so it gets synced back to the front end. And from there, I have the Hoodie nice API that tells me, hey, your email sent worked out, so I can show a success message and also remove the JSON from local storage. Now comes the good part, and I only have a few minutes left, so I have to rush a little bit. Because this is really, really fun. Now we just talked about how complex it is, how hard it is, but it's also really, really cool. There is new stuff coming up that you would not think about yet. The first thing is conversion. Usually when we do conversion today, or account conversion, you go to an app, you want to use it, oh, you have to sign up, right? Tell me your username, email, password, whatever. This is Minutes.io, and see how conversion works here. You go on the website, you click on a button, and you're in. That's it. Right? You're right in. You have a conversion rate of 90% and up from visiting the website to using the app, because there is no need for a backend. People can just use the application in your browser. And the cool thing is, you don't even know. Like, I don't know how many people are using it, like the visitors that don't, they're, but if it wouldn't, they shouldn't generate costs for me because they don't generate any revenue, right? So this is really, really cool. Latency, this is obvious. When we talk about internet connection, we talk about bandwidth today. But bandwidth is not the only problem, it's latency. It's how long it takes, to make the request response cycle. And if you have an offline first app, you just don't have any latency at all. And you can save all the time. Like every single time I type something, it's just changed, it's persisted. Because you just save to the browser. And if it crashes, whatever, you just open it up, everything is still there. Server down, I love that. Because it's a free app, it's not my priority of my life, so sometimes the server goes down. But the only thing that my users will see is this. Oh, your seems you're working offline. Truth is they're not working offline, my server is down. So they may be a little bit confused, but still they can use it. And all the maintenance stuff that we have to do with our servers today, like, oh, I'm sorry, I have to take down the servers for like 10 hours or 2 hours or even a few minutes, your users won't even realize it, at least the existing ones, because everything is cached in the browser. They can just keep using it, the new version comes up, and then the sync gets triggered again. The backend. Now I'm really done with my talk. The backend becomes a swappable commodity. What I mean by that is, because you're moving all the complexity to the front end, the backend becomes very, very simple. And we think about the problems of our time, having like these huge services like Facebook, Google, centralizing all our data. This is because all the logic lives there as well. If we take this away from them, it's quite simple to make a decentralized web how it's meant to be. For example, if you do software as a service, I'm sure you've been in a situation where a company came to you and said, I love your application, but my policy doesn't allow to use it because we are not allowed to save our data outside our network. With offline first, it's quite simple to package up the backend, make it an enterprise edition, like ask for a shitload of money and let it just run in their own network. And then consider offline. It's not when you're offline. Offline is when you left the enterprise own intranet. Then you are like offline all the time, but the applications will still work. Offline First is an ongoing discussion. Please go to offlinefirst.org. We have a GitHub repository, where you can create new issues if you have questions, if you have suggestions. I talked a lot about technology today, but the really interesting part is actually the user experience. Like, how do we tell a user that he has local changes that had not been synced yet, stuff like that. So to recap, our offline experience, okay? Offline First is hard, especially if you need to sync. And take it easy, use Hoodie, please. Tell me how you like it, tell us how you like it. And that's about it. I think we don't have time for questions, but please find me if you have anything. I would really, really like to talk to you. So yeah, thank you very much.
So yeah, really thank you, Gregor.